stand by for action.
Thanks for joining me. My name's Dave Miller. I am the unpleasant blind guy. Let's get to work here. Now, White Mamba 46 says there is a little bit of issue with sound in the last show. I'll ride herd on that and try and deal with it. Then Museum 20 made a rather amusing comment about the last show, and I want to thank Museum 20 for that. Museum 20 hangs out with me when the Small G Gay does his program. Small G Gay is kind of doing guerrilla BTR radio right now because he's not living in an environment where he can do a regular show, but you should still try and catch the podcasts of the Small G Gay Report. And I want to thank RW from the Twitter for a very nice graphic she made for my cover for the YouTube cast. That was extremely nice of her, and I am going to be using it if possible. Now, I want to cover something that I didn't quite finish from last week when I was talking about Mr. Adam Goldenberg and his fun little article, Canada Has Death Panels, and That's a Good Thing. Now, Mr. Goldenberg says that these death panels in Canada, by law, exist to work for the good of the patient, not the good of the medical profession, not the good of the government. Now, this implies that government is uncorruptible, and I can only speculate that either Mr. Goldenberg hasn't been reading the headlines lately, or he has a naivete so profound that he shouldn't be allowed to cross the street by himself, or he is trying to sell us all a bill of goods. Either way, if you take Mr. Goldenberg's article to heart and believe in it, I would suggest staying away from anything sharp. Also, everyone should have a look at what Mr. Goldenberg has to say and take good note when he talks about how, when, etc., we will be playing God, we being the death panels, and understand that this is the argument that we now in the United States are going to hear from now and perpetuity unless somehow Obamacare is gotten rid of. The argument will be, well, sure, there are death panels, but we don't have enough money to take care of everyone, so some people are going to have to go. But they won't have to go if you give us money. One of the arguments that a lot of us made against nationalized health care was that they eat up entire economies. And this, my friends, is how. Now, we go from a Canadian huckster to an American one. I had something else planned to talk about in this particular edition, and I'm going to talk about that next show, and it'll be interesting. But I saw something Saturday that kind of ties in with what I'm going to do, and I want to talk about that instead. Now, what I saw was a life story of Charles Krauthammer on Fox News. Now, this was very interesting because of what came right at the end. Mr. Krauthammer was asked why he got so much ire from the Tea Party movement. And his response was that the Tea Party movement, in his opinion, felt that they had been betrayed by Republicans in Congress and that it was unrealistic to expect that Obamacare, as an example, could be overturned simply by Republicans controlling the House. Now, Mr. Krauthammer has commented on the Tea Party movement before, saying that he is aware that people in the Tea Party movement think that he's an above-it-all academic who is out of touch. And I have to say that Mr. Krauthammer's observation here is absolutely true, and I'll tell you why. Members of the Tea Party movement, or those who sympathize with them, have had to become more versed than the average American in matters of civics, because we see our country sliding into socialism. So, we are very well aware that the House of Representatives cannot overturn Obamacare on its own. We are also aware, though, and this is something that Mr. Krauthammer cleverly ignores, that the House of Representatives could, if they wished, have defunded Obamacare, forcing something else to be created that could cover poor people and not control our lives from cradle to grave. Republicans gained a majority in the House of Representatives in 2010 for a reason, so that President Obama's agenda could be halted. It was realized by that time by a lot of people that President Obama wasn't going to just introduce small programs and do small things towards making things better for the poor. He was going to, in his own words, fundamentally transform the United States of America, and people looking around at the time didn't like what they saw. So there was an avalanche of sentiment going the way of the defenders of liberty, who are the Tea Party movement. And the House of Representatives went solidly over into the Republican column. Now, that should have meant that the worst of Mr. Obama's agenda should have stopped in January of 2011. It did not. As far as most people in the Tea Party movement are concerned, the Republicans in the House of Representatives, many of them, including Speaker Boehner, sold out. They call it being cooperative and compromising. We, yes indeed, Mr. Krauthammer, call it betrayal. It's called standing by your principles. The left does it all the time, and nothing says that the right can't do it too, and shouldn't do it. It is our duty to stand by our principles. If Mr. Krauthammer sees that as a negative, I would submit that it is only because it threatens his comfortable little world. Now, I don't want to hear anyone telling me that I shouldn't say anything about Mr. Krauthammer because he's in a wheelchair. When it comes to the great arena of ideas that is political discourse, no one should get a break. I don't get a break because I'm a blind guy, and Mr. Krauthammer shouldn't get a break because he's in a wheelchair. He has an opinion and a platform where he can do a lot of damage to people who are trying to keep our country from becoming a socialist gulag. And people should counter that, regardless of Mr. Krauthammer's disability. Careful note should also be taken of the fact that Mr. Krauthammer's diatribe towards the Tea Party movement came at the end of this wonderful life story of this amazing man, Charles Krauthammer, because it's already been discovered that the establishment Republican Party is going to spend a tremendous amount of money and a tremendous amount of effort trying to discredit the Tea Party movement. In the words of one of them, we want our party back. And that means that they're going to spend copious amounts of cash trying to keep, for instance, Tea Party primary candidates out of government. And my guess is that they will also be cooperating with the left, who are constantly misrepresenting the Tea Party movement. I know a lot of people have trusted Fox News for a lot of years, but it's very clear that they have begun to drift left, and the end of this Charles Krauthammer retrospective, or whatever you want to call it, is a good example of that. What we in the Tea Party movement have to do, now that we are becoming enemies of the state, is to keep representing ourselves as being peaceful, loving, honorable, and working for a country where everyone has opportunity and where everyone has a voice. Now, want to talk about this show's awesome American, Sharon Rojas. This story was brought to my attention watching the Twitter timeline, and I just happened to see something that Lisa, who is Deep Blue Sea Love on the Twitter, had posted herself. And this story comes from khou.com, and it is by James Munoz, KENS, Channel 5 in San Antonio. And that in and of itself shows you that this is a truly awesome American, because one TV station chose to promote a story from another TV station. Now let's get to the story itself, because I think you're going to like it. Headline: San Antonio mom killed, saving her children, donates kidney to neighbor. This story was filed on October the 29th, San Antonio. A single mother who pushed her two children out of the path of a car last week is giving life to her neighbor as an organ donor. The incident took place in the 4000 block of Culebra Wednesday. A small memorial now stands where Sharon Rojas, 28, lost her life. She was helping her kids off to school when a car hit her and her two children. She died on Thursday. Rojas' grandmother, Josie Inouye, I will not butcher the poor woman's name, and I will just refer to her as either Josie or Sharon's grandmother, said Rojas had a passion about life and saving lives. That's why Rojas became an organ donor. Not only saving her kids, but, giving life to other people by my daughter donating her organs like she wanted, her grandmother said. Her grandmother's longtime neighbor and family friend, Daniel Govia, received a gift of life from Sharon. She's still in the hospital, the recipient of Rojas' kidney. Oh, I think that was wonderful, that my daughter had him in her mind and thought about him first because he was real sick and, the waiting list, her grandmother said. We're very happy for him that he got a second chance at life, even though it's tragic that we lost our granddaughter. A rosary is planned for Rojas Tuesday at 7 p.m. at Ortiz Mortuary, 3114 Culebra Road. Her funeral is Wednesday. Now, people, I just got through telling you about a couple of very pampered, privileged individuals who have wide scope to disseminate their opinion and who are very vested in protecting their own sweet little situation that they've made for themselves. And that's enough to make any defender of personal liberty angry and frustrated that more people just don't get it. But we can take comfort in knowing that in every city, in every town, in every rural area, there is an awesome American doing something every day. Now, we're constantly told that the archetypal Americans are people like Paris Hilton. They are not America. America is best represented by awesome Americans like Sharon Rojas. She did what all awesome Americans do every day. She sacrificed herself so that her children could live. Not unusual for a mother. But what's awesome about Rojas is that even death could not stop her from giving life to others. That's what Americans do. That's it for this show. If you want to show me your own awesome Americans, please get hold of me via Twitter at UBGContact. And that's where you can ask questions and leave comments, and I might read them. Until next time, thank you, and may your God go with you. Goodbye.